That is true. It's one of the reasons you're sitting in that chair. Your autonomy is appealing. That and the fact that you have the physique of a sportsman and not some bookwormy engineer. Have you ever been inclined to join any political party or national movement? My focus from the time I left Bronzeville was on earning an engineering degree, nothing else. He looked back at the file. I also see that 2 years ago you attempted to enlist for the war, but were turned down due to a letter that was sent to the Army by your college president regarding your, again, his finger scanned, unique acumen for physics, your overall distinguished scholarship. I was puzzled by that bit of information and responded, I did attempt to enlist and was turned down, but I'm unaware of any letter being written on my behalf. That's fine, he said. I know you weren't aware of said letter. Your honest response is commendable. He looked directly at me again. Ever fired a pistol? To this question, I wanted to lie and say yes, that I had done some training in hopes of preparing myself to be a soldier someday. I wanted to impress the young man, but figured he was the type to suggest a visit to a shooting range to gauge my comfort level with a gun. He would have been sadly disappointed. I also knew that he was probably suspicious, like most, of any colored who had ever fired a gun. As far as I knew, there wasn't a shooting range in America that allowed men like me onto their grounds. Therefore, any answer other than no would lead Mr. Hoover to believe that I had fired a pistol illegally. So I told the truth. Never, I answered. Doesn't mean you're not a good aim. Again, he looked at the file. Your high school coach, Mr. Sanders, says here your vision and hand-eye coordination is unmatched on the basketball court. Based on the high marks and comments your coach gave you, I believe even Dr. James Naismith himself would be impressed. He looked back at me. Anyway, the Bureau hasn't been given the authority by Congress to allow its agents to even carry handguns. I'm hoping that will soon change, and when it does, I'm sure you'll take kindly to a sidearm. I believe I would. I need to sign a few papers here, Sidney. Bear with me. But I'll ask you while I'm signing. I want you to try to be as specific as possible with your answer. What do you know about the Negro scholar W.E.B. Du Bois, assuming you're familiar with his philosophy? Are you aware of his communist leanings and dangerous agenda? I froze, trying to make sure I'd heard him correctly. Well, I am... Hold that thought, he interrupted, as his focus was on signing the papers. 1 minute. I was bothered by what he'd said about Du Bois, and felt foolish all of a sudden. I had allowed excitement to get in the way of common sense. Gladforth hadn't approached me to do the same type of work their other agents do. Of course not. They needed a Negro to spy on another Negro, one W.E.B. Du Bois. Just 1 more minute here, Sidney. I watched Mr. Hoover turn page after page, pinning his signature on each. Little did he know he'd mentioned my idol. I'd read everything Du Bois had ever written, but I was certain that Hoover knew nothing about my views because I'd never written nor spoken publicly about the man. I considered Du Bois the preeminent scholar of his time, the leader of colored America. And now, for that, the Bureau wanted to pry into his life. But they had the wrong man for this job. Besides, there would be nothing to find. He was completely honorable. All right, Sidney, he said, returning to my interview, which seemed to be becoming almost a distraction from his real job. Go ahead. Well, I think that Du Bois' precise objective is unknown. Do you subscribe to the crisis? No. Why not? Just then there was a knock, and his secretary opened the door. Mr. Hoover, she said, Agent Lively needs you in the meeting next door for a brief moment. I'll be right there. Listen, Sidney, I want to apologize in advance for this, but I may be running in and out of here during our visit. I was to take part in another meeting next door, but didn't see why I couldn't fit you in. Told them to call me in only when my opinion is needed. We all have to keep several balls in the air at the same time around here. I understand. Good, he stood. I'll be back before you know it. Once he exited, leaving the door open behind him.